All right, everybody, welcome to the ECBRO Discovery News blogcast. Tonight we have a special guest, Brien Foerster. Brien, did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Yes.
Oh, okay, awesome. I ask every guest that because I always mispronounce something. Now, I'm sure you may end up correcting me on a few things here that I'll be stating. Brien Foerster, our guest, he is a scientist, archaeologist, and am I so far correct on that?
Actually, technically, I'm not an archaeologist, but I am a scientist.
Okay. Now I know some of the work you do. You're actually kind of. Is it safe to say that you're involved with, semi-archaeology work?
Well, definitely, I interact with a lot of archaeologists.
Okay. Um, Now, from what I understand, let's kind of take a step back in time. From your childhood, you had some interesting hobbies. I learned, and some of them are different various carvings. And the one that kind of stuck out to me was I really found that very interesting was you got into carving boats, different kind of boats, and you did that for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the present time, you were involved with actually making. Uh, I can't remember the name of it. It was a much larger boat, much larger scale. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about the boat carvings and there was other various carvings you got involved with too, different artifacts and stuff. But the canoes and everything were pretty interesting. Yeah, could you
Uh,
share with us a little bit about that?
sure. I grew up on the west coast of Canada, so I was right in the area where the famous native totem carvers live and used to live, and so I got very interested in their culture, because I found my Anglo-Saxon culture kind of boring, and that led me to carving and producing totem poles and canoes. And then I moved to Hawaii and got involved in a 62-foot double hull voyaging canoe project. So that got me into sailing, studying ancient navigation, and things like that.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Um, Now, and you also you've aired on 9 episodes of Ancient Aliens, several radio shows, so forth. Do you plan on airing on anything, any more Ancient Alien episodes, or any other actually shows for that matter?
Yeah, I think there's another one or two of this season that I'm supposed to be in, so that'll be a total of 15 of them.
Oh
And
wow.
I'm also involved in documentaries with different people from around the world who come to Peru, or sometimes we go to Egypt and places like that to study mysteries.
Yeah, now you've been I've read a lot of you've done a lot of work in Egypt, but particularly right there where you're located in Peru, as well as Bolivia. Now Peru actually has been a main focus point for you as far as a lot of your research and your findings. Um, Now I know one of the big things. It's kind of been a big interesting topic with a lot of us, and it's kind of like jumping right into this, but. One of the main things you studied and you're doing an independent study and research also for the cranial deformations and there were some other skulls involved as well. I guess we kind of get into that in a little bit. Um, Now it's you and a group or a team that you guys are involved with this study, and you do not want no universities, or any government involved whatsoever. Um, Now this one here, you guys have been doing some work on this. You guys are actually doing some, expecting some DNA results coming up here next month. Is if I'm not mistaken on that, is that correct?
Yeah, actually, it'll be hopefully within the next 2 weeks.
Oh wow, okay, that's awesome. Now, just curious, of course, if you do, you don't have to, and you're not obligated. But just curious, I had to ask this, but by any chance, do you know any of the results already?
Well, there was some study done about 3 years ago with a lab in the U.S., and they found that there seemed to be segments of the DNA of one of the elongated skulls that didn't match anything that was human. But that's
Oh,
as far as it went, because as soon as the supervisor found out what this geneticist was doing, he was immediately fired,
oh,
and he hasn't been able to find work since. So recently, we've had we have 3 different labs now involved, all very state of the art, and yeah, the initial results will be coming out within 2 weeks.
wow. That's I'm definitely anxious to know what that might be. That's awesome. Because another thing involved in this study right here, and now this is what I read. This was probably about I don't know 2 3 months ago. Um, I'm sure this question might pop up from somebody, but now, as far as I know, Melba Ketchum is not involved in this, correct?
No, she's not.
Okay, because I had reason to believe that that question might come up, and um, because that's a whole different topic. I've had discussions on that. I'm sure you want to leave that one alone.
Right.
Well,
um,
actually, no, not really, because she received some samples from Paracas skulls.
oh,
She
okay.
also received money, and that was, I think, 3 years ago, and we've gotten nothing, absolutely nothing from her. So I don't plan any more interaction with her.
Now, is it? Oh, okay. Is it because she didn't follow through? Was she supposed to share anything, or she just her work didn't add up to where she just wasn't capable of doing it? Um,
No, she said, she said that she was going to have the entire genome of the Paracas extracted from the samples, and she was going to, immediately give us any results that she got, and she's given us zero.
oh,
Hmm.
oh, that's definitely not being a team player.
That's right.
Man, okay, because I definitely wanted to get that cleared up because that's something I recall reading, and sometimes from where I read that, I just want to know if kind of more or less have you back that up, because
Yeah.
the source I read that from was, um, I believe they're a pretty incredible source. They share a lot of scientific details and stuff, and um, but yeah, that's something I definitely wanted to let the audience know, and I myself personally, because I try to stay on top of these little things like that
Hmm.
for my own sake. Um, see, Ryan, were you about to say something, Ryan?
Well, yeah, I was just going to ask him. Um, uh, I was trying to find out kind of what actually piqued your interest uh, in the elongated skulls. How did you begin this work, and how long have you been doing it?
It started probably about 6 years ago when I saw when I saw life. Of course, they've been on TV being described as being Nephilim and Anunnaki, and aliens and alien hybrids and sort of things. And so when I started to see the museums here in Peru, what amazed me was that there's no archaeologist actually studying them. So I kind of took it upon myself to see what was what the history of them was, where they were distributed, basically who were people.
Right. Um, yeah, that's just I was just wondering, and I noticed not a lot of people are doing any studies on it. You mentioned earlier about getting DNA. Now, is that just strictly like mitochondrial DNA, or is it going to be nuclear? Is it the whole genome, like you stated? Um, what are they doing with the samples actually?
Well, the first stage is mitochondrial because that's the easiest. The second stage, if it's possible, is nuclear, and then if you're really lucky, then you get the genome. But the problem is that this DNA is 2,000 years old, and so human DNA breaks down very rapidly. I've even heard that ancient DNA is classified as 5 years or older. So the probability of getting a really good sample is very low, but we have 3 of the finest labs in the world working on this right now.
Mm, that is
Hmm.
awesome.
It is.
Uh, yeah, go ahead, Ryan. I'm sorry.
I was also going to ask. He mentioned the Paracas skulls.
Yeah,
Um, so that was basically that was like a tribe. Am I correct? They're not like the Star Child skull. Am I correct?
No, the Star Child skull was found in Mexico. There's only one of them that they know of. But the Paracas were a civilization living from 1000 BC to about the time of Christ. And they were a population of thousands of people.
mm,
So obviously you've done a lot of research about the Paracas. What do you believe they were, or their origins? What were they? What is your opinion?
Well, that's actually what we're hoping the DNA is going to indicate. Because if there's any DNA or genotype involved, which is not of people who crossed the Bering Bridge, as in Native Americans, in the standard viewpoint, that gives us an indication that their ancestors may have come from another part of the world.
Wow,
yeah.
that's definitely against the grain, so I can understand.
It is.
Mm,
I also seen that you stated something about like the normal elongation and non-normal. How do you tell the difference?
that's a good question.
Yeah, actually, cranial deformation has been practiced on every continent except Antarctica that we know of. On average, most commonly about 2,000 years ago, as well as some of the islands in the Pacific. And what it involves is taking a newborn baby, and then you bind the skull because the skull bone, or the bone hasn't formed yet. And so
Right.
over the course of about 3 years, you start to alter the binding in order to achieve a specific shape. And throughout the rest of that person's life, they maintain that shape. But we're noticing that there's a small percentage, especially of the Paracas skulls, that look natural, as if they weren't bound at all, but these people were born with elongated skulls.
Mm.
Definitely interesting. I just had one. I see somebody else had a question, but I was going to ask you one more quick thing, and I'll pass it to them. Now, are you able to tell the difference between males and females, or is it just? Oh, you are.
Oh.
Is there a certain way to be able to do that?
Yeah, the easiest way is males tend to have what's called a brow ridge, so the bone kind of sticks out a little bit in the top here. And also, males have a tendency of having rectangular eye sockets, whereas females tend to have more of a round shape. So those are
Wow.
two of the simpler indications.
That's pretty cool. I did not know that. You know, that's something definitely. And now, like, all right, that's something to definitely take note of right there. I wasn't not aware of that information. That's
And
actually good. Yeah.
so, is there also a difference? Like, I seen way back in one of your videos. I don't know if it was how long ago it was, but you stated something about spurring also on the inside of like the eye or something. I'm hoping that was you.
Not that I know of, but the two indications I gave are the two simplest ways to tell,
Too
like in general, the difference between what a man and a woman's skull looks like.
Mm,
Okay.
all right.
I think
All
Fred
right.
had a question.
Yeah. Go ahead, Fred.
Okay, what's your theory on the part of the ancient slavers back in the I think it was Egyptian times?
As in slaves building the pyramids?
Um, Wait a minute here, let me
Because
see.
yeah, if you're referring to that, because I do recall in one of your speeches you were talking about, referring to the so many century or so many years ago with the different cultures of civilizations. I know having the technology to build what they did build. I know you were kind of referring to some of it. You were comparing to Incas, and then also I think you mentioned the Egyptians as well.
Uh,
Uh, I'm not sure if
Well,
that's exactly what he's referring to on that.
no, what I was basically, they had sculptures of elongated skull people in outfits that would grab humans or train humans to experimental on hominoid slaves and stuff like that. What do you know about some of them?
well, in ancient Egypt, there was the time period of Akhenaten, which was the 18th dynasty.
Right, right.
He was very different from anyone before or after because he had lots of depictions of people with very elongated heads, including himself and his daughters. Um, Nefertiti, his wife, didn't necessarily have that. There are hundreds of portrayals of elongated heads during the time of Akhenaten.
Okay.
Hmm.
Thanks. That's exactly what I
All right.
wanted to hear. Okay, I'm done.
That's all right. Now, Lael actually had a question for you. Lael, how about it? What you got? She froze. Oh,
No,
there she is.
I was muted.
Okay.
My question has to do with the ancient people who with the elongated heads, um, who were obviously it was obviously done on purpose, and then the skulls you find that weren't. Now, the Caracas, is that what we've been?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
people. Okay, now were their heads bound on purpose, or were they the ones that seemed to be that it was a natural elongated head?
Well, what we're seeming to find is that the original ones had naturally elongated heads, and then over the course of time, they started breeding with normal-looking people. And
Hmm.
so
Okay.
what happened is that over time, you had the normal hue characteristics starting to take over, and so the cranial formation began as a way to maintain the appearance, because it was only the royal level of the society had elongated skulls. The average people, like the farmers and the fishermen, just looked normal. So they were the elite of that society.
Right. And so as they bred into, so maybe not in the beginning it was a natural thing, but as they bred into, yes, regular society, the elongated heads bred out, but the royals kept it up. Um, Now, does that tell us anything about if they were actual humans to start with and bred with humans, or not actual humans and bred with humans?
Well, it is a possibility. They could have been a subclass of humans, or they could have been something different. The unfortunate thing is that the DNA testing would never be able to tell you that, because what the DNA test does is it compares any DNA with what is known, and
Exactly.
so you would have to
Okay.
have the other in the database in order to be able to compare against it.
But
Right.
these are some of what you are hoping to test. Am I right or wrong?
I'm sorry?
I said, but these skulls are some of what you're hoping to DNA test. Or am I wrong on that?
Yeah, that's right. They're
Okay.
being tested right now.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now, Brian. Now I know this is related to the elongated skulls, and I wanted to know if you could explain. I've seen this word, but much longer. But this is see if you. I was wondering if you could explain what this is. It's the megalithic works of South America.
Hmm.
Now, what exactly is that? Because I hear that term
Well,
spoken a lot through a lot of your work and stuff.
yeah. Well, megalithic just means large stones. So
Oh.
we have constructions up in the highlands of Peru, especially around Cusco, which was the Inca center of stone constructions, where some of the stones weigh 120 tons. And then in Egypt, there are there's stones that have been moved, like quarried, moved, and put into place that weigh 800 tons, 1,000 tons,
Hmm.
much bigger than anything we can deal with today. But somehow,
Right.
obviously, it was done in the past.
Now, yeah, with that work, another thing that reminds me. You made a statement. Yeah, I mean, they couldn't have made a boat or a craft to actually come across a desert or anything like that to transport. And some of these stones, I think you were referring to the. Uh, I don't want to mix anything up. I know you're referring to the limestone. And some of these stones
Hmm.
were very large, over like thousands of pounds. Do you have any theory on, you know, where or how they might have come there? I know you were trying to explain, as far as it would be almost impossible for, the people themselves to do that. But I mean, that's pretty incredible. It's kind of mind-boggling to think about it. You know, like these big heavy stones that were, used to build and create. But yeah, what's your take on that? Or what do you know about that as far as the
Well, it
transport?
depends on yeah, it depends on where you look. I mean, there's a site in Lebanon called Baalbek, and the quarry is about a mile. It's about a mile away, and there's a stone in that quarry that hasn't been completely severed from the bedrock. It's limestone, and it's estimated to weigh 1,500 tons.
Mm.
Then in Peru, again, you have stones that have been that weigh 100 tons that have been transported at least 2 miles. And then in Egypt, you have granite stones weighing hundreds of tons that have been transported at least 500 miles.
Mm. Well, that's yeah, yeah, that's incredible stuff right there. I mean, just to think about, what do they use? I mean, just to think about what do they use or how they got it from the many hundreds of miles that they actually came from to get to where they were so many, thousands of years ago, or so many years ago, all this supposedly took place. Um, and that kind of, brings up another thought in my head, which I'll get to shortly. I'm going to let Ryan jump in there. Ryan has a question.
Yeah, you were just talking about the transportation. Do you have an opinion on how they were transported? Because I noticed that you stated you did a lot of work in Pumapunku near Lake Titicaca.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
you said there might have been a flood at one time. Um, is that your belief? And do you think if that was all water at one time or something like that, they could have been transported by water? I was just trying to get your interpretation of how you believe these giant stones uh, were moved.
That's a good question.
Okay. Well, actually, the theory that we're developing now is that there was a global cataclysm 12,000 years ago, and that would have caused things like the burying of Pumapunku, and all sorts of different things. So we honestly believe that the megalithic sites are 12,000 years old or older, including Pumapunku. In terms of transport, um, there's still one block at Pumapunku that weighs 115 tons. It was transported 10 miles over top of a mountain. And so there's no way that this was
Wow.
done by a bunch of slaves with pulleys and ropes and stuff, because there are no trees that grow in the area of Pumapunku because of the elevation. It's too high. So there's nothing that primitive culture could have used in order to move this. So we're looking at the possibility that ancient cultures did have some kind of anti-gravity power because the technology also used in cutting the stone. We do see tool marks, and the tool marks in some cases look like modern tool marks, but they're much more efficient than any kind of drill or saw that we have. It's beyond 21st century technology.
Do you actually believe that? Do you believe that the stones were like machined or hand carved? Or I noticed a lot of them are polished. So do you have an opinion formed on that?
Yeah, they were definitely machined. They weren't done by hand.
They, oh wow, yeah, because I know some of the designs and the cuts, and some of the stone you've mentioned had drilling done to it. So
Yeah.
apparently there was technology used in a lot of this work. What's your theory on the technology that where this technology was from or used?
Well, it
Because
again,
that
it
was a
depends
pretty.
on. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
it
Go ahead.
depends on where you're talking about. But we've taken engineers to Egypt and machinists, and they've looked at some of the drill holes, and the drills that were in use in Egypt were basically tube drills that they had, which is like a hollow tube, and they could penetrate the stone 500 times more efficiently than what we have.
Oh
So
my goodness.
these drills were penetrating the stone 2 millimeters per revolution, which is 500 times more efficient than what we can do with diamonds. So again, it's a case of having technology beyond what we have in the 21st century, which is hard to believe, but that's what the evidence is telling us.
No, that's awesome though, but it's also mind blowing. I mean, to just think back then they had the technology there that we have now, but more advanced. Well, I don't know if that's the right way to right term to use, but you know that's pretty impressive. I see Fred just popped up. Had a question there. Go ahead, Fred.
Yeah, I
Well,
noticed. I noticed on. I was watching it a couple weeks ago, and they had in that place Kumakuku, whatever, and it was showing the stones, where they fell down and everything. My question is, how would they be able to get it so tight that you can't even get a piece of paper in between them?
Oh yeah, he's talking about Korikaka.
No, Kumakuku.
Well, that's the question. There's a place called the Coricancha, which is in Cusco,
Oh,
and
okay.
you can't fit a human hair in the joint.
Right.
Joint is 3 feet long. I mean, it's even a slight mistake would mean that the stones would pivot on some level, but they don't. They almost look like you take marshmallows and squish them together. That's how tight the fit is.
Yeah, because I've noticed, I've seen how they cut. I've seen the ancient ways on how they cut the stone, but the way they cut them stones, I just can't see between how they did it and how perfectly symmetrical the corners and was tight. There was like no concrete, no nothing, no more, nothing. Everything just set. Um, I guess you call it catty cornered or whatever, but it was so, they're so perfect, and on how the technology was back then. Now, do you think they actually had help in doing that?
Um, I Either they were way beyond our capability, or somebody was helping them. Definitely, you
Yeah.
know.
Oh yeah.
That's the thing that people can't get their their mind around is that they think that everybody who lived before us were primitive compared to us. But the stone that we're looking at is telling us that some of this stuff we could do today, but it would be phenomenally difficult, requiring all sorts of technology in terms of transport, cutting, moving, putting together, and you know, in other cases, it's stuff that we simply can't do.
Yes, I can see that. Thank you very much.
My
Yeah,
pleasure.
yeah. I just to mention what Fred was referring to related to the Corey Concha. I think the name he mentioned. I think he was thinking about the. Correct me if I'm saying it wrong. Cusco, which is the abandoned city. That later
Yeah,
on, that was yeah. I think was it the Incas that end up coming back to that city to rebuild or
yeah,
okay.
yeah. The Inca developed around Lake Titicaca, which is south. So they were forced out due to climate change and also tribal people who moved into their territory. So they were forced to move north about 1,000 years ago, and they found the city of Cusco in ruins and then rebuilt it.
Mm.
It becomes really obvious if you go the difference between what the Inca could do and what we can't do.
Yeah, because in high school I studied the Incas, the Mayans, and the Aztec. And every one of them, like the pyramids that they built, with the sacrifice room at the top of it, is how precise it is and how much. I mean, the technology back in them days. If we could ever learn how they did it, we would learn a million times more than what we know now as far as the industry on construction goes.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Hmm.
all I want to say.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Brian, there's something I wanted to bring up which I found this interesting, and before I present it, I definitely want to know, and I'm sure the viewers will love to hear this. I want to know your theory. I was trying to follow you on your speech that you back in 2013. You were sharing some awesome information in the Open Mind Conference. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Now you were discussing about you mentioned something about evolution and the error that we have today relating to evolution, our the origins of humanity. I
Hmm.
was wondering if you could speak a little bit on that as far as what you were discussing and that related to the evolutionary theory and everything. Uh,
Sure. Well, I spent 4 years in university studying Darwinian evolution, and
mhm.
not all of it made sense. Like, not all of it made logical sense to me. And I even asked professors, "What if I have a problem with some aspects of this?" And he said, "You won't have a career." So I was supposed to swallow it without questioning it. And all of these all these transitions between Australopithecus and the next and the next and the next. There's no real strong logic to state that that's the case. There's no strong
Mhm.
logic, as far as I can tell, that we evolved from apes because there are just too many gaps. It's
Exactly.
possibly types of humanoids lived for different periods of time, and they got wiped out by different people. Like, it's pretty well known that we destroyed the Neanderthal because we're a very destructive species, and there
Yeah.
could have been many other types of humanoid people living who were not as vicious as us and got exterminated, and that's why I'm sure the last Bigfoot and Sasquatch want nothing to do with humanity, because all we would do is track them down,
Right.
and kill. And I think they're smart enough to be able to outdodge us.
Absolutely. I agree 100% on that. Now, now this is kind of talking about the evolution and everything. This is related to all this because this is a topic. It's this theory of this idea came up. It floods around the Bigfoot community in the forums, and of course, I believe this originated from Miss Ketchum, and I'm going to ask this question before Fred gets to, because I thought of it first. But what's your theory on human hybrid, or is that even possible to have a human and another animal? I mean, I know my answer, but I mean, my opinion, what's your take on the human hybrid? Is that even possible?
Oh, if they're really, really closely related, I think it's possible. Or unless there's been, you could, theoretically, you could have a very sophisticated um, life form that does genetic engineering in order to be able to breed with another life form. That's, that is theoretically possible. Um,
Right.
so, we all, all Homo sapiens, which is what we are, has such closely related DNA that we're able to breed with each other. The problem is that scientists tend to dismiss anything until it's incredibly heavily proven. So, for example, you may have heard of the um, little people who were found in Indonesia that died out maybe 10,000 years ago that were literally called the Hobbit people. And
Yes, yeah.
scientists dismissed that they ever existed, they were fake, etc. And finally, they've had to accept the fact that there was a subclass of human being that only, grew to be about 3 feet tall, that were exterminated by us,
Mm.
related people.
Man, yeah, that's pretty good. Brian had a question. Excuse me, Ryan. Ryan, I'm getting Brian and Ryan mixed up. Go ahead, Ryan.
Okay, thanks. You said that you did some work like Peru and Egypt. Are you finding the same type of skulls over there also, um, as in Egypt? Is it like the same type of thing going on?
Well, unfortunately, there have been no actual skulls found. We only see the depictions in the art. Um, but Egypt is a very strange country in that if there are artifacts that don't fit in with the standard story of the pharaohs, then that stuff's hidden in the warehouses of the museum. Won't put anything on public display that doesn't fit the normal story. So it's very possible that they have hundreds or even thousands of elongated skulls, but they won't show them to the public.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So, I see you state that a lot of your stuff is found during large constructions and stuff like that. Have they ever found, really large bones or anything like that along with the skulls um, during the digging?
There are lots of stories of that. In fact, there are lots of stories in Peru that there were people who, there was a race of people who were at least 7 feet tall, whereas average Peruvians are about 5'4". And a friend of mine who is an anthropologist insists that he was in possession of a very large femur bone from the leg, and he put it into a museum collection locally. And when I went back to visit him to see it, he said, "Well, I'll take you to the museum and I'll show it to you." When we got to the museum, we went to the warehouse in the back, and it was not there. So I don't think he was lying, but I think it was taken out of the collection because it didn't fit with the natural evolution story.
Wow. Yeah, we hear about that a lot, all too often.
Yeah, there's a lot
Uh,
of that going on.
Too much. As far as I've seen some things online, have you seen any type of giant prints that have been like solidified in like the volcanic ash or anything like that? Because if you have, I was just wondering if you studied anything like that.
Well, actually, a really good friend of mine is L.A. Marzulli, who's actively studying the giants of North America. And he's got
Hmm.
a photograph from Catalina Island um, of a skeleton that was 9 feet tall. The photo was taken like 80 years ago, so there's no way that it's Photoshop. But also he's found many locations, as well as many other people have, of the fact that many giant skeletons have been found, but the Smithsonian have basically taken all of them and are probably hiding them again in their warehouses in Washington or somewhere else.
That's amazing.
Now,
Go ahead, Daniel.
oh, okay. Well, it's related to what Ryan was actually bringing up, and it just kind of popped in my head. Now, here in North America, you know, the biggest question for the biggest question thrown at coming from the non-believers and the skeptics related to the Sasquatch. And this is discussions we've had openly before, and the big question is, why has there not been any bones or remains found? There could be a lot, a lot of reasons. I mean, I have my theories and my beliefs on this and that, and but yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of archaeology and a lot of work that's been done here in the U.S. alone. But it's like it seems like you hear more of it, you know, more of it over like where you're at, and Egypt and so forth, those areas. But yeah, because you never hear what's being done here in the U.S. I don't know if maybe it's because the government's more involved. Perhaps there's certain discoveries that are being made, and there's a cover up to some of it. But I mean, we do have large skeletons. They stated they have large skeletons in the Smithsonian. So, but I don't know. What do you know about as far as anything that might be here that maybe the public don't really or is not quite aware of?
As regards Sasquatches?
Yeah, that or just large bones in general. Like what your friend that's doing studying the like giants or large bones and stuff here in the U.S. Or the North America period. Yeah, has there been any discoveries of that here or any signs of that indicating?
Well, yeah, especially in the late 19th century, there were a lot of articles in papers all over the U.S. Stating that people had found, large skeletons. But literally as soon as it was found out about, the Smithsonian had a policy of basically demanding that they would be the caretakers of this stuff, and people would be sent to collect the bones and take them back to probably Washington, where they would be cataloged and hidden away for the rest of time, because they also seem to have some kind of agenda based on heavy duty belief in evolution. So anything that doesn't fit, like giants existing or Sasquatch existing or Bigfoot existing, doesn't fit their story, and they don't want anything not fitting their story. So they have the power in the past to do that. But because of modern technology, I do know people who suspect they know where tombs of giants are in the middle of the U.S., and what they're going to do is get, this is usually on native land, so what they're attempting to do is to get permission from the native tribal people to be able to do excavations, and you don't need U.S. government approval for that. And so what they're planning on doing is doing the excavation, documenting what they find, and then if officials come and take the bones away, it's too late. They've already got DNA samples, they've got photographs, they've got video, they've got measurements, etc. So that's what's going to happen in the future. Most researchers who are looking into areas that some people may not want them to be looking at understand that it's a chess game, and we're like 2 or 3 moves ahead of anybody else.
Wasn't there I'm sorry, Daniel. Wasn't there an article recently in the past few weeks that stated the Smithsonian had X amount of giant bones that they admitted they had destroyed in the early 1900s?
Yeah, that they'd actually dumped them at sea.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes.
We read the evidence.
exactly.
Dang.
And
Actually, also,
what's the
sorry, go
fella's
ahead.
name? Wopert? Is that his name? The fella that does America Unearthed?
Oh, that's I know who you're talking about. No, wait, I'm thinking about somebody
Um,
else.
he he has done some shows about giant bones and um, through the early and mid 1900s and them disappearing or um, odd and things about that. His what's his name? Is it Tom? Might not be Tom. I think it's Woper. Anyway,
I think I know who you're talking about. I can't think of the name either.
but
But
he's a uh geologist. He interprets ancient. Uh, he's a geologist. But
okay.
anyway, yes, I have heard recently the same that they admitted they had dumped thousands of giant bones.
Oh.
And how horrible. But
Yeah.
what you gonna do? They're gone now.
Well, talking
Well,
about
there's also.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Go ahead,
sorry, but
Brian.
there's also a lot of stories that in New Zealand, people living there before the Maori native people, and they found a cave that had, I think, 40 or 100 skeletons of very tall people, and the government took all those bones and ground them up for fertilizer in order to get rid of
Wow.
the evidence.
Wow. That's crazy. Well, what if well, hold on. What's this? I have a. Oh, I'm reading the live chat right now. Live chat. I see. One of our viewers. They mentioned something about Bureau of Indian Affairs has some pull. I don't know if they're referring
Yeah.
to. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Oh, and this same gentleman right here. He's referring to. I think he said it was a talk show host. Oh, yeah, talk show host. He wanted me to ask you. Do you miss Kevin Smith?
Sorry?
Yeah. If he said it right, that's what. Yeah, he says he wants me to hold on. What's it? I don't know. He said as a talk show host, unless he misspelled it. He says, "Does Brian miss Kevin Smith?" Is what it's asked. I don't know if he says he. I said, "Who's that?" He said he was a talk show host. So I guess it was a radio show, a talk show you
Yeah.
were on or something.
Not that I know of.
Oh, okay. All right. Because I'm trying to look through. There's a lot of comments and stuff on here. I'm just trying to I'll go through on. Uh, okay, yeah, because oh, yeah, he was saying he said you were a guest on his show, and then okay, I just wanted to make sure I covered the questions on here. So, um,
Okay.
all right, but yeah, my question. Oh, hold on. Oh, okay. Layla put the name Steve Haskes, if I'm saying that right. Hasks, Hasquees. Um, but
No,
yeah, just
Steve has a question.
oh, okay. You missed. I thought it was a name you were putting. I'm sorry, I didn't make it. It looked like two words, like you were trying to tell me something. Steve Haskins. I was like, what?
My new computer has a stiff space bar, and I hit space, but it doesn't always space. Sorry, go ahead. Steve had a question.
All right, go ahead, Steve.
Brian, I'm not a doctor or anything by a long shot. So my question is, once these skulls are elongated, what happens to the brain? Does anybody know? I mean, would the body produce fluid to hold the? Because your skull is what holds your brain in place. And now that once that thing is extended up, what's there to protect your brain?
Yeah, that's a really good
No,
question.
that's a great question. Um, the weird thing is that this process was really pretty sophisticated 2,000 or more years ago, and among the Paracas people especially, they did a lot of brain surgery, and they may have had to have done that in order to relieve the pressure on the brain because they altered the shape. But the amazing thing is that of the brain surgery that was performed, there was a success rate of at least 50%. So they cut something even the size of a silver dollar out of somebody's head, and the bone would grow back, or at least the person would live long enough for the bone to grow back. So that takes years. So nobody knows where they learned how to do that. But among the practice, it was quite a common thing to do.
I have a question on
Yeah.
that
That
before we
that's
move on.
yeah,
Um,
that's all right. Go ahead.
my question is I think I heard you speak about it in one of your speeches, but I couldn't. There's so much in your speeches to take in, and they're so enjoyable and so informative. Um, my question is, if you um, are purposely changing the shape of someone's skull, which is going to move your brain in different directions, are you still going to have the same brain function?
That's yeah. Like yeah, wouldn't it
No,
cause
that's a
yeah.
great question. But it was only, again, it was only done to the royal family, so only the chiefs and children, as well as priestly class, their children, was this done to, and these would be the most precious members of your society. So you would have to be very careful in how you did it. But that is a great question. Unfortunately, the Paracas disappeared 2,000 years ago, leaving no descendants, and so we don't know how they thought. They didn't have any form of written language. A very good question.
Yeah, that is. Cause think about that. You think it would cause or create like mental, or not mental, but a retardation by basically you,
Or something?
you're yeah, like you're altering the
Possibly.
brain.
Yeah.
You are. You're moving the different centers around, and also
Yeah.
Yeah.
contact between the two halves of the brain would become different because you'd have more of a contact from the left brain to the right. And so would that all the way that people thought? And it's a
Maybe that's
very,
why they died
very good.
out. Maybe they died
Yeah,
out because they were idiots. That
could
was a
be.
joke. But I mean, you know, that was a joke. Okay, I'm muting myself.
You're fine.
Hey,
Ryan, what's that, Steve?
Brian, have you ever seen? There is a movie. I thought it just came out at Christmas. It's an old movie. I don't think it's Ben Hur, but it's set in that. It's made back when Ben Hur was made. And the
Uh-huh.
priest in that movie had large cone heads that were wrapped. It was Hollywood back then, but it must have been something well
Hmm.
known to be back in the what 60s, 70s.
Yeah, they would base that on the portrayals of Akhenaten. They would put that in because, well, also, if you look at the pictures and drawings of Osiris, who supposedly was, this mythical ancestor, he's usually shown with a cone-shaped hat on, actually all the time. And so I think that's actually what Akhenaten was referred to was, I come from very interesting people.
Oh,
And so I'm going to draw what they look like.
Hmm.
cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to state real quick before because I had another question. But I just wanted to state it again. One of our viewers, they're just jumping on, and they want to know where were the. Oh, wait a minute. You're actually asking a specific. Where were the first elongated skulls found? Was that Peru?
Okay. No, actually, in Iraq, those
Oh,
ones go back 50,000 years.
wow. Okay, now how many were found there? Was it
Only two, I think.
two? Okay. Hmm.
They're found
Now,
found in a cave.
ah, now that's interesting. Now, Actually, this kind of brings me up to another question now that I'm thinking about it. You know, in a lot of sightings, referring to your Bigfoot or Sasquatch, uh, especially in some of the footage they have, especially the footage in 1967 of the Patterson and Bob Gimlin footage. One of the
Right.
things that's noted or noticed in there and pointed out is the sagittal crest, the slope of the head, and that's actually kind of brought up and mentioned in possible other footages, or especially in sightings that are reported. Um, I guess I guess what I'm trying to say is, hold on. I lost my original train of thought on that, but it still brings me to this question. Do you believe that could be any possible relation to such? With you know, like I don't know. Like I said, I really lost my train of thought. I was going somewhere with this, but yeah, I was bringing up the sagittal crest, and with the elongated skulls. That's basically two separate things right there, isn't it? Oh, we lost him. All right, hopefully he'll be back. But
Could I don't know if this is where you were going, Dan, but my question I had was, um, the skulls they found that were naturally um, conical, could that be related somehow to Bigfoot?
oh right, yeah, that's kind of like where I was going, but at the same time, I had
I
something
thought
else in my
so, but
mind
it
at the
might have
same
been
time.
different. But yeah, because that
Yeah,
was the
like
question I had.
yeah. Let
Because
me see.
a few seem natural, and then others didn't have the same plates
Right.
that we have, and were that was one of my questions.
Okay. Hold on. Give me a second. I'm actually jumping on Facebook to see. He might have lost connection like we did before. Yeah, it happens to all of us. Um, Give me a second.
I think we've had some very good questions.
Yeah, the viewers are liking what's being asked because they're all good questions because they're actually all related one way or another, I believe. And as soon as hopefully we'll get him back, I think he'll agree.
Well, I didn't want us all to. Never mind.
Yeah, I'm finding a common denominator here that's really weird.
What is it, Steve?
It all happened, what he's talking about 2,000 years ago. That's about the same time Christ was supposedly walked the earth. Now, I'm a Christian, but I don't
Right,
want to mix the religion and all. But it's kind of
right.
weird that this all transpired at the same time a being walked the earth that could do miracles, and it's just kind of weird how that all transitioned around that same time.
Well, it seems to be from what he's saying. And I might be wrong, but from what I'm getting, it was like maybe that's when it kind of faded out. Was when Jesus came.
I don't know. Like I said, in that movie, the priest, the all high ups, they had that cone-shaped head that long it gave his skull, and
Yeah,
it's weird how it's something that's happening all around the world and not in one place. You know what I mean? If it was one
yeah.
one group, it would seem okay. That's their thing, but they're
Well,
everywhere.
there's still, people are still doing that type of thing all over the world. Think about the women in Africa. They put all the rings on their necks and make their necks real long.
Yeah.
There's
Oh
still
yeah, yeah.
there's still tribes that clamp their babies' heads and things like that. Not nearly as not that often anymore, but still.
Yeah. Well, let me inform everybody right now. Ryan, I just got a message. Oh, hold on, he's still typing. He won't be able to. He will not be able to jump back on.
Oh
Uh,
man.
Well,
and
darn.
yeah, but he's messaged me. He says thank you for having him on. But since he can't come back on, I figured we could kind of go through a discussion of what we heard and what we were talking, because like questions are real good questions were brought up, and especially talking about you made some good points there, bringing that question up there, Layla, as far as the
Thank
altering
you.
of the brain. Could the brain be altered with the deformation? And I mean, that was a good question. And then you know,
Right, and well, we all come up with some good stuff.
I actually wanted to ask him if he did any work in Cappadocia, because there's a lot of tunnels that were found down there in Cappadocia. And, I had a lot of things. I guess there was a new Incan complex that ceremonial complex that they discovered in Peru in 2015. I also wanted to ask, huh?
Yeah, I heard of that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And I was going to try to ask him about like Sasquatch and things like that, but I was going to bridge it basically by if he had studied any of Lloyd Pye's work and what he thought.
yeah, because I know I had another question too. And as I was explaining or bringing something up, I had other questions pop in my head all at the same time. Questions I didn't think about earlier, but as we got into discussion, that's when other questions are rise and things pop up, and it relates to one way or another. And it's like, man, I just want to get his theory or thoughts on a couple things. Because one of the questions I was going to ask him, it was kind of an interesting question. It wasn't an educational question. Well, yes, it could have been or it could be, but the question I was going to ask was, all right, say I'm out in the woods, I'm exploring, and I'm venturing in the woods, and for some oddball reasons, by some chance, I actually discover a very large skeleton, very massive, large, displaying very large skeleton feet, etc. My question on top of that is, what do I do in that situation? Who could I
do I
report?
call?
Right.
Yeah.
Make it public.
What's
Who
that,
do I
Steve?
call?
Don't make it public.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Forget
Like,
that.
Exactly.
like the main thing is map out where you found that. Maybe
That's a
contact
GPS.
some of the individuals. Like, hey, I'll get a hold of I'll get a hold of Brien Foerster. And I said, Brien, you ain't gonna believe what I just found right here in North
Some
America.
damn
But
body besides the law.
oh
You
yeah,
know.
they'll have that area taped off and blocked off and investigating it as a murder site. But I mean, to find a giant in our woods locally, that'd be awesome. I mean, and it's one of the biggest questions I ever asked regarding Bigfoot is why are remains never found? And we've gone into different discussions with this, but the thing is, the other questions I never hear asked is, what if we do find one? Who do we contact? That's a big question.
I think that is the more important question, because I think maybe a number of them have been found
Yeah.
and snatched.
I think the other more
But
important question added to that is, who do we trust?
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as far as we were talking about, was it last night, talking about poop? Was it Steve? I agree with Steve. They bury it like a cat. Was it you said that, Steve?
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I'm the one that thinks
Yeah.
that they once one gets sick or injured that they kill it and eat it, because it's an easy meal, it's fresh, and the bone marrow, you won't find the bones. They break the bones and eat the marrow out of it, and then it gets scattered around.
Yeah.
But who knows? Really, who knows?
Who knows? Exactly. Who knows? But that was a good darn. Either they dig a hole and bury it, or they just do it and scuff it over.
Yeah.
Dogs do that too.
I wanted to ask him, and I didn't. Maybe somebody did, and I wasn't paying attention. But did anybody ask him how the Peruvian people accepted him down there for doing what he was doing? How did the people feel about him being down there?
Well, actually, for one, you're talking about Peru, right?
Yeah, when he was in, or how did they accept him in some of these countries? I mean, the main thing was Peru. I think is what a lot of his studying is in. But how did they accept him?
Well, for one thing, he's actually living there right now. That's where he was actually broadcasting from.
Oh,
Yeah,
And is his wife from there, didn't he say?
I believe
That his
so.
wife's from there?
And that's another thing he stated. He's actually it's he another thing he mentioned too. It's his dinner time. So his wife must have dinner ready. So he did mention that as well. So that's another reason. Yeah, he kind of had to disappear. So
I think from the few shows that I watched, speeches and things of his, it sounds like to me he is been there long enough, been there a lot enough that
yeah,
they know him and they trust him, and since he's going through their government, not our government,
well,
and
um,
that works for them, I think.
I will say this much. Like I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the study that he's involved with these elongated skulls. Um, he's him and his team. They're actually working on this independently because they stated they don't want no government involved. They do not want no university involved. They're actually working on trying to get funds to get further into the research. But like you said,
Yeah,
the DNA has been done and tested, and we're within 2 weeks. He said that we it should be released. We
he,
should hear something.
yeah.
So I'm anxious to see
Well,
what that is. I think whatever that comes out to be is going to be big news. I'm sure it'll be on his page or it'll be posted onto the science blogs and other social media. So
well, I wanted to talk to him about Bigfoot and about his knowledge of the Native Americans and their folklore and that kind of thing. And I didn't dive right in because I thought, we'll get to it. But daggone, I was
well,
excited. And go
did you
ahead.
guys read the little side note that Ryan popped up there? It's still in the chat right now. I read that when it first popped
Oh
up on the
yeah,
screen,
yeah, I see. Yeah.
and I think that might have something to do with it too.
I
So
really do.
yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. That's why I'm not saying that. So
Well, we didn't talk
it kind
about
of
the.
it kind of make well, yeah, but it kind of makes some sense in a way. Yeah. Sometimes some topics get a little deep, or
I
or
agree. Oh, I agree.
I mean, we do that with everybody. I mean, regardless of who the guest is. So um,
I agree.
Hi, Steve.
But
I
you
thought he was
say hi,
sleeping.
Steve.
what's that,
I,
Ryan?
I,
oh, what's up?
I had to say hi. I thought he was sleeping. I was just joking with him.
No, I was looking at
Oh,
some
okay.
discussion.
I'm gonna go to Steve's and camp in his yard sometime in the next 6 months or a year. Um,
Well,
very
you know
interesting.
what?
And go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna mention you mentioned about going camping up there. I do have camping planned for Memorial Day weekend. Perhaps I could go up to Steve's for the Memorial Day weekend. Head up there Friday afternoon or
All
evening
I can tell
after.
you is you won't get much watching done.
What's that?
Memorial Day weekend, you won't get
Oh
much
no,
watching done.
that's yeah,
Well,
bad weekend. I didn't think
Everybody's
about
up
that.
here on this hill partying, and I mean up and down through here.
oh
It
yeah,
is
we need to pick a
crazy.
quiet weekend. Me and
Yeah.
Beth wouldn't mind going, Dan.
Well, if you guys are welcome to come
But
up. I'm sure.
we got to get our stuff together a little better. I'm
Well,
just
I
getting
tell
to
you
where
what,
I can stand
right
up and
where,
sit down again. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah. Well, there is a Johnny house right there by one of the campsites I sometimes camp at. So
Now that's
But
a
now, when the
plus.
expedition comes up, and for the week of June, there's there's one location to be perfect for several tents in there, and it's right across from the entrance of the lake where you pull into the go towards the lake. There's actually there's the Johnny house is right there. The bathroom is right there, so it'd be perfect for everybody. For those who don't feel comfortable using the woods, but it's right there. So, and we got
We
a
feel
stream, we got water right there. So,
we feel comfortable
but
using the woods, just not
oh yeah,
after
I know.
dark.
Yeah. Now
Yeah,
keep in mind,
after
there's no
dark. Yeah, after dark, I ain't wandering
Well,
out there.
well, when y'all
well,
come up here, I got a good setup for y'all when you come up here. I even got one of them little chair things from the hospital that you can put a little a curtain
Body
around, and
seat.
yeah, I got one of them you
Me
can
and
use. And
we were talking about that's what we needed to put in our tent with our clothes and our stuff, one of those little hospital potty seats,
yeah, I
and
got that
then we'll
set up.
sleep. We'll sleep with the men folk in our own sleeping bags. Yeah, that's what we need.
hmm. Well,
But anyway, and what else you want to discuss, Dan, before we all uh finish?
well, um, well, it's kind of hard to discuss on the topic we were on since our guest was not able to be on. Because I mean, I know we were just getting into the real good questions. Even the viewers are liking what was coming up, the questions that were popping up. But um, hmm, hmm.
Muted.
I swear, once they do that to their skull, I can't imagine that brain being protected. They must get injured mighty quick. Just a hard jolt.
Hmm.
So where would that extra
Well,
fluid?
well,
Well,
that was my thought too. Is I guess everything in your brain is still in your skull, but if you're mushing it and pushing it,
hmm.
think about a concussion.
Yeah, that's what I said.
A concussion joggles your brain inside your skull.
Right.
And if you're mushing it and pushing it in different directions, are you going to have good sense?
Yeah. Hmm.
And maybe that's why, if they began as, I don't know, extraterrestrial or I don't know, but as they bred with humans and became more normal shaped skulls and they were pushing them back into a bad position, maybe they were idiots.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they and it was the royals doing it. Then maybe the royals didn't have enough sense to govern, and that's why they disappeared.
Yeah. Brian
I
wanted to make
don't
sure.
I don't mean it ugly, but it's kind of something to
Yeah.
think about.
Yeah, Brian wanted to make sure I thanked all you guys too. He enjoyed being on while he was able to be on, and but he said it was his pleasure being on, and he just wanted to make sure I said thank you to you guys.
Tell
So
him we all enjoyed him too, and we're sorry. But please come back soon.
yeah, I definitely would like to have him on when the DNA comes out, um, and see
Now
what
that
they
I know
plan.
something about him and know what to talk to him about and whatever, um, yeah, great guy. Very,
See,
very,
cool.
very, very smart. I mean,
Yeah, I wanted to do a screen share, but for some reason my other window option ain't open. Let me see if I can pop up another window, and well, actually no, those pictures. Did you guys see the pictures I shared to you guys earlier, showing the three different skulls?
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
you got number 1 and 2. They're both human skulls. The number 1 skull that I posted there, that's a human skull without deformation. Number 2 had the deformation. Number 3 that I shared had was not deformation and was not human. The other thing that he was making a statement on regarding those three skulls, both human skulls, the skull were thin. Unlike the third skull that was not human, that they concluded that it was not human, stated that it was very thick, a very thick skull.
Oh, it was thicker.
Yeah, that's one thing
Huh.
I want to recall. Um, so I wanted to see if I could. I'm gonna try something, but I hope it don't disconnect me. Oh no, here we go. Open new window.
I might can share it to my
Yeah. Here we
page and
go.
then you can share it.
Yeah, give me one
Steve,
second.
Steve, how was your wife's appointment?
All good.
Good deal. Praise the Lord.
All
Glad to
right,
hear it.
as soon as I get this pulled up, I'm gonna screen share it for viewers, showing them the three different skulls here that I shared to you guys. Give me a second here. Facebook on my computer is slow. Here we go. Let me pull this up. I'm trying to think if I shared it in the.
You shared it. I
Did I
think
share it
you
in the
shared
group
it in the
chat?
groups. I think you did.
Yep. Okay. There's one I posted in there. All right. Now
Um,
I know I shared it directly to you, Lael, didn't I?
yeah, I know you did. Hang on. Let me look.
Uh, I know there was one picture I posted in there of the one that says non-human, but I was trying to find the one that had all three of them in it.
Okay, I got it. I don't know.
Let me check because I think I might have shared it to Fred. Here we go.
You
I
got it?
found it. Yeah.
Okay,
Let me put.
I found it, but it was harder for me to
All right. I'm gonna let the
share.
viewers see this because we still have viewers. And all right, here we go. I added the 1, 2, 3 to this. This is a screenshot, a still shot from off of one of his videos. As you see, number 1 and 2, one's a normal skull. Number 2, this is a side view, well, kind of a front angle view. And number 2 is a deformed skull, which it kind of extends out. Number 3 is the one that they concluded that's not human, and that's the one that has a much thicker skull
It
texture.
doesn't have the plates.
Right. It does have, like, yeah. You see. Let me go. Let me do something here. Yeah, you see the connection of the. You got the
Yeah,
cranial plate and all this right here, and how it connects back here. Now, this
right.
here is
We have
more tight fit. It on the very top, it did display very little up here, but there's no separation,
right.
which
It's
is very
almost
interesting.
it's almost like if you really look at them, it almost looks like the big number three. It, you know how like you smooth off cement?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you talking about like it's been molded, like more or less.
Right, right. It almost looks like that.
Look at the
Hmm.
nose cavity on number 3.
Yeah, you're right. It kind of comes up. It's a
Oh
lot
my
bigger.
goodness.
It comes up.
It's a lot taller, yeah, and different too.
Oh yeah, compare this to the other humans, which are more round sockets. Yeah. If you look very closely right here where my mouse is, this here looks like a
Yeah.
more of like it had a higher cheekbone as well.
Yeah, it's more of a straight line over the eye where well, no, number one isn't a straight line, but it's I don't know.
Hmm. But yeah, I see what Steve's saying right here. This comes up
Mhm.
pretty wide compared to these sit a
Mhm.
little lower. So that is interesting. Let's
Well,
see.
I didn't know that they had um the what the hell did they call them? The little people,
Yeah, the hobbits. They refer to them as
hobbits,
hobbits. Yeah.
hobbits.
They're like pygmies.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
and
right.
I had always wondered how many did they find,
I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
and I think he said, and I'm not sure, 30, 300. Seemed like it was a three.
I was also curious. Does he get like? Does this? Did our guest tonight? Did anybody ask him, or did you ask him, Daniel, if he is like privately funded, or if does he get like university funded, or how does he? Because he's obviously not worried about the government or anything.
He
Now,
says donations,
yes, yeah, he is accepting
just
donations, but
donations.
he is basically privately funding this. Him and his team. They are not seeking any assistance from government or universities because they do not want any outside involvement, interference. They want to make sure that whatever the results are open. They don't want, like I said, they don't want no one to try to discredit or take from. It's pretty much basically what he was saying. Now he did not state this here. I found this information through one of his videos that he spoke on. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, I heard that on a couple of videos that they
right.
were donation funded and didn't want anything from the government, anybody. They want to do it on their own
He
to
probably
make
has a
sure it was right.
he probably has a really detailed log of all the donations and everything he needs appropriately done and so on and so forth. But
Yes, probably.
Now, I mean, I'm assuming since the DNA results, no, the DNA's already been done, and the results are scheduled to come out within 2 weeks. That funding there, I mean, I'm sure there's been already a lot of money involved already, and now as far as from here on out, when the results are released, I don't know where it goes from there.
But now this is the DNA from the Caracas
Yeah,
skulls,
Paracas,
right?
yeah. Yeah, the Paracas skulls, Paracas, Peru, Bolivia,
Is it Paracas or Caracas?
Paracas with a P. Yeah,
Okay, with the P.
yeah,
Paracas. Okay.
yeah. And of course, yeah, Paracas is, let's see, let me see. La, 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 la. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
I went and found Peru and Peru, anyway, I went and found Turkey, Egypt, Peru, and the Bolivia
Yeah,
today on the map. I knew where they were, but I went and looked on the map today to make sure I knew that I was correct. What countries, and whatnot they were in, just to make sure,
yeah.
And
No, because
go ahead.
oh no, I was just gonna say, yeah, he does speak openly about Peru and Bolivia, and then also Egypt as well.
Egypt and Turkey,
Right.
and Egypt and Turkey are Turkey's above Egypt, or vice versa. But they're one right above the other, but the Mediterranean Sea
Hmm.
is in between.
yeah, I was
What?
gonna ask him. Go ahead, Steve.
No, I was just curious. What country is NASA? The NASA lines in? Is that
Peru.
Chile? Is it Peru or Chile?
It's been found in a lot of places, but Peru is some of the
You know what I'm
main.
talking about? The one where all those lines are that look like a hummingbird, and one looks like an airport, and one looks like a spider. But you got to
Yep.
go way up in the air to see it.
Oh,
Yep.
I
Yeah,
okay.
but they're
Yeah, I know what you're talking
all,
about.
well, not all, but a lot of them are in that western side of South America. Am I
But
right?
I was going to ask him if he had seen anything else down there that could I don't know what the word I want is, but kind of put extraterrestrial into this.
Yeah.
That's beyond man's capability.
Well,
Well,
the the Peru, you just mentioned the Nazca lines. It's actually Nazca, Peru, but there was a shape of an alien, and that's built on the side of a cliff, or a mountain.
Right.
Eh,
yeah,
That's kind of hard for a person to do, especially like he stated. He believes that the stones are machined. That's a bold
Mm.
statement. Um,
I mean, it
you
is,
know
but
how?
I mean, he made that statement out of the research and the conclusions that they came up with, because like he mentioned, they brought in engineers and to study
mhm,
that, and that's from the evidence and the research they've done. They were done with machinery of some
I'm
sort.
gonna I'm gonna throw something out there, and y'all gonna think I'm crazy, but I'm almost willing to bet those rocks were cut with water.
Hmm.
If
could have
you want to cut
been.
something, you want to cut something, like really precise like that. You think about it. Everything, a lot of things are cut with a. Nowadays they got a thing that can shoot a stream of water like a laser almost, and it'll
Yep,
cut through bread. And,
yep,
and, and it's very fine, and it sands the edges off as it goes,
yep.
and I'm almost wondering if it wasn't cut with water
Well,
Well,
somehow.
it could have been.
then the other question to that will raise another question is like, what would they use to present the force of the water? Kind of
That's
like
it.
using like a power washer. If you
Yeah.
depending on if you're using a power washer and set the right setting, it's like, I mean, yeah, you could cut your sidewalk. I could go out here to the sidewalk to the front door, and you put that
Well,
pressure down to it. It could start, you could start chipping away at the concrete.
I was
One
gonna
of
say.
my friends. Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, I was gonna say like they use the sun a lot for a lot of things. So, but I don't know if it would have enough pressure. But you could boil the water to create the steam, and if they had some type of contraption to pressurize the water to pump it out, you could do that. But that would take a lot of pressure to cut those stones. But I agree, it was probably it looks laser cut. I mean,
Exactly. So they didn't have lasers back in that we know of. So what's the you see where I'm going with
That
this?
brings that brings in the alien aspect.
I
well,
mean,
it
And
brings in more. It brings in the aspect that they may have been smarter than we are, and we kind of lost our history.
well, Ryan,
For sense.
that was one of my questions, and I had it written down. For Brian was, do you think this is um, information and do you think this is something that we had and lost, or was it brought from some other place and that was it?
well, before you answer
Because
that, yeah, before
go
you
ahead.
answer that, Ryan, I want to state one thing that Brien Foerster mentioned: through different civilizations and cultures, through periods of time, you know, it's kind of like the economy, or like societies, they prosper, and then and they dwell and do good for a
And
while, and
then
then everything crashes. It's kind of like an up and down scale through time and life with different cultures, and you got they have their
I
downtimes, they have their good times, kind of like the economy. Things are down and out where people can't afford to do nothing, and then when things are good, everything's that's kind of like using the I don't know if that's the right illustration to use, but what he was
I
saying,
see what you're saying though.
yeah. Um, but I don't know. I mean, back to Layla's question, Ryan. You could take over there. I just kind of wanted to throw something that Brian had mentioned. Through how the cultures kind of go up and down in life with different you know times and struggles, and So it's
Well,
like
as
they
far
prosper and they, you know.
right, yeah. Well, Lael, you have to remember, you know, we're taught not to question. What we know is what we've been taught in school. You know, we've been
Exactly.
taught we've been taught by books. Um, you know, that is what it is. That was drilled into our minds. You know,
I know.
I graduated, you know, so 12 years, and then, you know, you go to college, and that is the right way, and that's the only way. Um,
But some of
so
us
if we yeah,
try to think, try to think out of the box.
right, but we don't pick that up until later in life, usually, until we've
Hmm.
experienced a lot of things that don't fit in that box. So
Mm,
by that time, it's like we're 35, we're 40, and then that's where you start to see archaeologists and all these people like Brien himself 6 years ago starting to do these things,
Hmm.
um, because we didn't like what we were taught. So why are they teaching us what they're teaching us? You know what I'm saying?
and do y'all remember he said that in college he questioned a professor and
Right.
he said you need to forget that or you'll never succeed as a scientist. Or well, that's not exactly what he said, but
Right.
basically
Yeah.
and that was God what in the, when did he go to college? 70s, early 80s?
Basically, he had to play the part uh, till his
Yeah,
career, till he made enough money for the last 25 years to
yeah.
say, this is what I want to do. You know, if we had the luxury of millions and millions of dollars, then we could just go do it, and you know.
Yeah.
But so much is being hidden for some reason that I don't know why. Whether it's bones, like he said, his friend, they went to go see that bone and it was gone. I mean, and
Yeah.
you're hearing about this all too much. It's just
Right.
the minute something important pops up that can change history or evolution,
Yeah.
it's gone.
Exactly. Well, like the other thing
Well,
he stated too, if you know, if something was revealed to where it could affect humanity or society in general, they don't want no part of it. I mean, or they don't want, you know, they don't want to come public
well,
about certain things because it could change the way we see things, the way we were taught.
they
Um,
don't. Well, they don't want mass chaos.
well, for one thing,
Um,
yeah,
for one thing, but then again, there's a lot of things. Well, like the UFOs or Bigfoot. Could especially UFOs could cause mass chaos,
hmm,
and the government doesn't want that, and hell, we don't want it either. Um, I do agree there are some things that we don't need to know, but on the other hand,
Yeah, but we have a right to know.
yeah, yeah, well, yes, we do. Yes,
I
we
mean,
do.
If if
that's
you
bottom.
if you
I
refer
agree.
if you refer back in Minnesota, there was a Minnesota giant found on a farmer's land.
Yep.
Um, you know, and he called in the state and the archaeologists and everybody, and they said, okay, let us handle it. And they kind of played him, and then in the end, it disappeared, and they didn't bring
Yeah,
the story out or nothing.
There was one
Uh,
found in Sykesville, Maryland,
right.
and the government came in and they had black vans or whatever, and they sealed the place off and said, and when it was the cops, they said, no, this is a murder situation or something, and it was just a big skeleton. They wrapped that sucker up and it was gone.
mm,
But
mm,
um,
look back. They found a cave here not long. Well, it's been a while now. I'm getting old, but it was a while back. They found a cave, and in that cave they found clay pots, and they got these pots out. And the more they examined them, they found out the daggone things were from years and years and years, like 2,000 years back or whatever. But these things were actually batteries. So we somebody had technology way back from somewhere.
hmm.
oh
Well,
yeah,
we're taught to believe that there was these ages, the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, the Stone Age, They basically just grouped it together so we would follow that timeline. We don't really know. You know, that's the thing. We don't even know the ancestry. We don't even know how far the human lineage goes back. A lot of people say, "Oh, it's X amount of years," or the planet's only 3 billion years old, or we don't know that. I mean, there, you know, the human race and Australopithecine and everything else could, you know, be millions of years old, and then that runs you back to dinosaurs. I mean, how come? Like that's another question. Why are we finding all the dinosaur bones?
Yeah.
And they'll bring that out, but any giant type of human, they won't let that out.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
agree.
think, yeah, they're definitely covering some. I mean, they don't. I mean, I don't know. I can get into it, but at the same time, it's mind-boggling too. I believe with what we think
It
and
is.
feel are the right answers, but we can't say that for sure.
And you know, a lot of it, I think, is they don't want to eat crow. If you look at Columbus, Christopher Columbus, we celebrate Columbus Day. Banks are off for Columbus Day.
And
He found America, but this man killed Indians, killed Native Americans, killed his enemies, and fed them to his dogs. You know,
mhm,
but they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to go. You know, they don't want the truth to come out. Columbus, you know, they don't want to go back and say no, he didn't. This didn't happen. He didn't discover America, even though he didn't. You know, we still celebrate Columbus Day.
yeah,
Yeah,
why don't we celebrate the man who America's named after, Amerigo Vespucci? you know.
and even the Vikings were here too, and they still dispute
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That
There are a
it's
Mhm.
lot of
ridiculous.
descendants of them in Minnesota. You go up there are a lot of Viking descendants that came down from Scandinavia, whatever came across, and then went down in the
I'm a,
Minnesota.
I'm a, I'm a Viking descendant.
Hmm.
I'm Irish.
I have,
I have no idea. I mean, I'm Italian,
See
but
my red hair?
well, we have red hair. Well, Vikings are red hair too. I have red hair. Um, I have my family history back to 1066
Yeah,
to the Battle of Hastings.
I have three main bloodlines in me. I mean, there's more, but the three main ones are, from my father's side, Canadian French, and his mother was 100% Italian, and then my mom's Irish. So, but
We
so
have
yeah,
been taught history for so many years, and now that things have
Well,
developed, we find out new things. They don't want to go back and change it.
yeah,
It's set
but
in stone.
we're all Americans now.
mm,
You know, we're all Americans now. We've got our ancestry. All of us different, some the same. We can be proud of our ancestry, but we're all Americans now. But yeah, the scientists are just gonna. I don't know why are they rewriting the history books to black out all the bad parts of our history. You
well,
know, it's our history. It's our history.
I'll tell you, it's going to be a matter of time where the history books, in some cases, will be rewritten. Right now, just like what Brian said, or excuse me, Ryan, just like what Ryan said, we're taught one way, and we're taught. I actually said the same exact thing in my video that a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks ago. From a young child, we grow up, we're taught from our parents, and then we go to school, we're taught what society is programmed into us. And like going through school, whatever, everything Brian just said, it's accurate. And the thing is,
But
it's those of us who get out and explore eventually, whether it be me, Fred, or anyone across the country that's just a simple person like we are. One of us is going to find something, and I think if enough people start finding and discovering it for themselves, then society could only hide secrets so long, for so long. You know,
I
eventually.
think I think I think probably me and Steve were taught in school different than you and Ryan. Maybe not terribly different,
I mean,
but
like how? Like what do you mean?
Steve, what year did you graduate?
Oh, I can tell. 1989.
I graduated '84. Okay.
Oh,
Ryan, when did you graduate?
Me?
Yeah.
98.
yeah,
When,
same year I graduated, '98.
Wait,
okay,
no.
98. So, so me and Steve went to elementary school in '70s
Yep.
and early '80s. It wasn't quite, and in small towns, which y'all may have been in small towns too, but in small towns, we weren't um, liberalized. We
Yeah.
were we were church, family. You know, you could bake cupcakes and bring them to the class, and it was okay.
No, we could do that too up here, but it seems like, um, honestly, it seems like, the 80s were like that, and even the 90s portion. But once,
Yeah,
you know,
the
I
2000s hit and
not
into the 2000s.
yeah, like 98, like the year I graduated, things really started changing, almost like something was forcing their hand to change things so rapidly. Now you have that liberal movement now where it's all like, you can't say this because you're hurting somebody's feelings, or you
Yeah.
can't do that because that hurts. Are or it's this whole,
It's the
I'm not racist, I'm not
Everybody
anti-gay
offends
or anything.
everybody.
Yeah, they call it
Right.
political correctness, which is a bunch of junk.
It's
Well, we
garbage.
were we were raised to be polite to anybody. As long
Let
as
me.
they were polite and friendly to you, you were polite and friendly back. Am I right, Steve?
Yeah. Were you all when y'all went to school and graduated? Were y'all required to take algebra in school?
Yep.
You had to take an algebra class.
Yeah.
When I
Yeah.
graduated, all I had to have was a general math, one
Well,
science class, one science credit, two math credits. The only thing I was required 4 years of was English. My son
well,
is graduating next week, and he's chemistry, and he has to take that kind of stuff.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, my daughter's in ninth
I
grade.
know.
She's taking all these advanced algebra and all this other weird stuff. I never had to do that crap, but yeah,
Well, I'm
basically.
gonna tell you something. When you put alphabets and numbers together, you forget me because I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, it gets you think. It's basically a different way of using your mind, which
Yeah,
I understand algebra,
Well,
but I'm not good at it,
they
but
I
could.
I
took my
understand it.
son.
It's almost like they confuse
I
you.
took my son.
They want to
I
create
took my son
confusion.
out of school in second grade, and he's been homeschooled ever since. He's in seventh grade now. He's as smart and does as well as any kid in school,
Mm.
and he doesn't have to do the EOG test,
They didn't have homeschooling when I was in
and
school
Yeah.
that I knew of.
Mm.
I never heard of homeschooling
you
until
know,
later on. When I graduated, either you went to school or you went to jail.
Yeah, but you see, I had a couple different classes in school that were considered. One was considered a military science because I took 3 years of Army ROTC in high school,
Yeah,
and
I took 1 year at Navy.
yeah, and then I also took I took masonry 1 and 2.
There you go.
It was a 3 hour class for 2 years, and or a 3 period class, whatever how you want to call it. So I took that up, my last 2 years of high school. But those there, they were considered that was a form of that was a math credit. The ROTC that was considered military science. So there was science right there. I mean, yeah, I took up basic, biology in high school, and regular other sciences, but those were scientific, other science credits and stuff too. But yeah, my favorite classes was government, government.
Yeah, mine
So
too. Civics.
yes,
I was bombing
oh,
civics.
absolutely. Yeah, I like sociology, psychology, all those classes. You know, our teachers actually made them fun, but you learn about the different theories and philosophies and all this crazy crap, but it was actually very interesting. So, but yeah, but I did good with my government. I loved, because even through earlier schools, I loved history leading up to, the government, so it was pretty cool. I mean, I had a, I enjoyed my education in high school. I ain't gonna lie. um, it's funny. I have two older sisters, and I remember them saying this years ago, and till this day, I understand what they mean though. But after they had graduated, because my sisters are one's 8 years older, the other's 10 years older than me. Um, well, they after they've been out of school for a while, they said they missed it. And now I know because that's the thing. A lot of our today's youth, they don't realize how well they have it right now.
You ain't kidding.
How easy it is before they get into the real world. So, but yeah, and some of us put ourselves in situations where get involved with certain passions and hobbies, and then we get so serious into it, then we got to be able to deal with things on a different level, especially all the criticism and all the junk that floats around social media. But hey, we kind of bring it upon ourselves, really. I mean, I'm actually more or less speaking for myself. We see a lot of crap that goes on, with the Bigfoot community, and this one don't agree with this one, or this one, hates on you because they don't agree with you, and so
Man, don't
forth.
get mad at me, but I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna put that right out. This is the
Yeah.
biggest bunch of crybaby sissies I've ever seen in my life. And
Mm-hmm.
and, 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 and if you don't agree with somebody, or you know, it's so many bullies in this community. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. It's
Yeah.
if you're doing better than somebody else, they're gonna come up and say that you're a hoax or you're this, you're that, to try to beat you down so you don't get above them.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
I see it.
as far as I can, let me. I'll speak openly on my part. I would love to make the biggest discovery ever. Who wouldn't? But if
Yeah.
somebody else does it, more power to them. I mean, some of us, there's some of us that were referred to as glorified campers. But if that's what they want to call us, that's fine. I mean, when I go out researching and scouting around, yeah, I camp. I enjoy my camping. I try to make it very relaxful on the most part. But I take my time hiking in the woods. And you know, there's a lot more to it than that. Like I try to explain myself, to a lot of people. I'm not just one of these people that go walking in the woods with a camera. I mean, I do study what's out there. I don't just like, okay, snap pictures and end up just sharing them. But I study them, and then when I find certain things, I try to research what I'm finding. Is there something related to what I'm finding here elsewhere? Like, like for example, primates, our known primates. I'm learning some of the things I find are similar to what they do,
Yeah.
what they create. But
You ever notice if somebody has if you take these people put these pictures up, they take a picture and they put it up. If it's a
yeah.
blurry picture or not good, everybody says, "Oh, that's a Bigfoot, that's Bigfoot." But
Oh,
if
I
somebody
see.
puts a
Yeah.
nice picture up where you can see its face and everything, that ain't real. It can't be
Yep.
real. What do you mean? If something's got to be real sooner or later, why can't it be real?
Exactly. That's a good point, Steve. It really is. I mean, because people are it's so much junk that's polluted the possible good evidence, the real evidence. Yeah, who's going to believe it when the real thing is up there? You know?
Exactly.
I mean, if you see a bear or a deer or any other known common animal in the woods, you take a picture of them, you post it on Facebook, and people see, man, that's a nice looking buck. Oh, that's a big bear. Well, you know what it is because you're looking at it, right? And you see it very clearly. Uh, you know, I think the point is because even though for those who did not see a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch, if they see a picture of a Squatch and they know it's not no other known animal, they're going to know it's none other than that subject. But the thing is, they're going to be able to identify it because it's a clear picture. I mean, even if you take a picture of a
Then they
man
don't
in
want
a
to
suit,
accept it.
yeah,
Then they don't
exactly.
want to accept it. No, that's not real. That ain't nothing, I mean, well, sooner or later, this one of these pictures has got to be real. So if somebody's calling a bad picture a good picture or a bad, something, it just pisses me off when I get hearing that crap.
I
I
Oh,
told
think
trust me.
I
I
told you
think
guys, I believe mine's real. I mean, but I got ridiculed for that, and I don't know.
well,
Now, oh,
Like Fred says, have you ever seen a Squatch? No.
Y'all want to
yeah,
hear a story?
Then how can you tell me my picture is not a Squatch if you have never seen one?
right. And I
Let me take.
understand, Steve. Yeah, Steve, let me,
Oh,
can I make a
go
statement on
ahead.
that
Yeah,
real
yeah,
quick?
go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead.
Now, when Fred says that, I understand the point that he's making. But at the same time, Fred's got to also understand. Well, if somebody's showing a picture of a Squatch, thing is, they should be able to rule out. Okay, it's not this and not that, not that, not that. But okay, if if you're seeing something that's hiding, it's inconclusive. The thing is, I
I
mean,
agree. I
you
agree with
know,
that too. I agree with
yeah.
that too.
But yeah, Fred does try to
I
make a good
do.
point, which I understand. I do clearly understand Fred's point when he says that to people. And and I've seen Fred say the same thing when he posts pictures to others. He gets questioned. He said, "Okay." He said, "You're posting a picture and you're saying it's a Squatch." And he's at like Scott Marlowe. I don't know if any of you guys know Scott Marlowe.
Uh-uh.
He's the author of a lot of cryptozoology books. He's actually out of Florida. Anyway, he shared. I was in a comment post with Scott Marlowe, and Fred posted a couple pictures, and he was being nice and he was being totally honest. And Fred, and the guy said, "I don't see nothing here. I don't see nothing that you show what you're saying it is." And then Fred asked him that same question: "Have you ever seen a Squatch?" Scott said, "Yes, I've seen 3 of them." And then again, they're kind of Fred kind of got quiet on that one, but so I
Well,
mean,
the other thing is too, like I have said about you're driving through the mountains, you pass a scenic overview, you pull over, you take a picture. The mountains are just gorgeous, miles and miles of Blue Ridge. It's gorgeous. You go
yeah,
home, you look at the picture, and the picture just ain't as good as what you saw when you
right,
pulled over and looked at it. And the same thing is true with squatches. If you're standing there looking at it, you can see it. Maybe you saw it 10 seconds earlier move or 10 seconds later move or whatever. But that doesn't mean that the people looking at the picture can tell it. Even though
right,
it may be obvious to you because you were standing there looking at it with the naked eye.
yeah.
And I think that is part of the problem too.
Picture's
And,
worth 1,000 words.
and the other thing is, a lot of people when they're doing videos and
Yeah.
and they go through their video afterwards, pause in each section of their video and see a dark image in there, and they decide to zoom in and do a still shot of it. And when you zoom in a lot of on videos, the pixels become distorted, and you didn't see it while you were filming, but that you have a video alleged Sasquatch in the video, and then you
Yeah,
start saying, hey, here's a Squatch. Well, if you still
I
can't make
agree.
it out, that's kind of
The
questionable. I
more
mean,
you zoom it in, the more you zoom it in, it gets.
yeah, I mean sometimes when
Sometimes.
you yeah, you're right. Yeah, and when you zoom in,
Sometimes.
sometimes those pixels distort enough to where it forms a possible image. But so, but
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't mean to
Well,
keep going on too long, Steve. Go ahead, Steve.
no,
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you what happened to me, and I never told anybody this. And I don't. put everything that I've experienced out there. I don't because
Okay.
Right.
Well, Steve,
Wait, let me get some.
John.
Steve, we're still live.
Yeah, I know.
Let me
Okay.
get some
But then, yeah,
pop.
no, that's fine. But I'm
Just
gonna
letting
share
you
the
know.
story.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Hold
gonna
on.
share the story.
Okay, Ryan
What's
wants to
up,
get some
Ron?
popcorn first.
Yeah, I just want to get some popcorn. Hold on.
See, that's why I don't tell nobody stuff right there.
Let's go, brother.
All right, one evening, my son takes a shower every night at 8 o'clock. All right, one evening he's in the shower, and it's dark out here like it is now. I had to pee real bad, so I come out here because I'm not going in the bathroom with my phone. I come out here to the deck. Now my floor of my deck is probably about between 8 and 9 feet off the ground because I'm on the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
So I start doing my thing, and I look down, and there's this black thing down below me. And all of a sudden, it just turns and walks. Boom, boom, boom. And it goes through these little trees down here. Crash, clap, 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 crash. Boom, boom. Boom. And it's kind of a clearing except for these little saplings I have. I think Leo and I showed Leo and Fred one time. I held the computer up so you could see it. And then there's the woods, and the woods are probably 50 feet, 75 feet from me. And it scared me so bad. I ran in the house. I got a spotlight and I got my gun. I come back out. I'm throwing the spotlight up. You never hear another sound. Nothing. So I sat here for a minute, and then I guess about maybe a minute or so, you hear something way down in the woods, and it made a weird noise. I can't even tell you how to sound. It was just a weird sound. And it made the sound, and you didn't hear no more. But once it got to the woods, I never heard it make another step. But from when I walked out here, it took, I bet you it didn't take 6 steps. I mean, it was just a clush, 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 and that was it.
Mm.
And it wasn't a bear. I can tell you right now, that wasn't no bear.
A bear ain't gonna get up and walk off. They're gonna run away on all fours.
And you're gonna keep hearing them. You're gonna keep hearing them once it hits these woods because there ain't no but leaves and dry leaves and sticks and whatnot down through there. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that was the one time that I was that close to one, and I knew it. And I've never really, my wife, I've told her she thinks I'm nuts. So be it. But I'm telling you, it scared me enough. I already got a big spotlight and a handgun. So
Wow.
What the hell?
Now, how long ago was this?
This was last summer.
Awesome. That's
Last
awesome.
summer.
That's very recent though.
That's why I think we all need to go and camp at Steve's in the backyard.
Oh yeah, he's already threw the invite to
Well,
me and Fred.
whenever anybody's more than welcome. I've got no problems. My wife's not doing. My wife knows I can't make my house up to people because I can't ask you to run it out. But you're more than welcome to camping anytime you want. Knock your socks off. I guarantee you something will happen.
How many acres you got?
I got 10, almost 11. It's 10.77.
But on
Is it
top of
border
that,
state land?
No, but I'm very close to state land.
but I also noticed your property it's all surrounded by nothing but more woods too, though.
Exactly. I'm in, and if you go to the east of me, there is just a big section of woods that nobody has somebody owns, but there's no houses. It just goes hundreds of acres. It goes down to the Potomac River.
Awesome.
But I won't say that scared me that night. I don't get scared easy.
I can understand that.
I can just say it was big and black. It was just dark because it was dark outside. I didn't even see it standing there when I came out. When I came out, I was looking over the rail. Man, I'm sitting there doing my thing, and next thing I know, I hear the step. I hear it turn. I guess you could hear it. The way it turned, you could hear it, and it just made this turn, and then it was like I don't think it was 6 or 7 steps. I mean, it was just a whoosh, 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 and it was gone.
Yep. Yeah.
Damn.
All right, that's like back in May. All right, May of 2014. 6 of us encountered and experienced an encounter together. But right around the corner in just from that same spot, I was camping by myself. This is last year, and I've shared this before a couple times. The one camping spot just around the corner. from where this one spot I normally camp at. Um, it was about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I had my fire going, lantern right there at the camp, and I had my spotlight in my hand, but it wasn't turned on. I had enough light right there at camp. I decided to walk from the camp, just walk out to the roadway without no lights turned on. I got out into the middle of the road. Keep in mind, there's no one else around, no camp, no one else is camping nearby, nothing. And when I got into the middle of the road, I didn't hear nothing. As soon as I turned that spotlight on, it started shining in the woods. The first thing I heard to my left was a deer. I didn't see it, but I know the sound of animals in the woods. A deer ran off real quick. But over to the right, basically just like what Steve was describing, the sound of the steps, it didn't run, but the steps were not slow either. And you could hear every step, boom, 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 boom. And as it stepped, you could hear, every crash and boom, and the power and the weight behind every step. And I'll tell you what, I've heard bears, I've seen bears. This was not a bear. And all I could tell, it was a very heavy, large bipedal. And, for anyone to question, well, how do you know it's bipedal? You could, if you're, observant enough, through a period of time, you get to develop a hearing and knowledge for the sound of a four-legged creature compared to a two-legged creature. And what I heard, I knew without doubt there was a squatch 20 feet inside that tree line. And when I heard it walking away, it wasn't coming towards me, it was walking away. But I walked backwards with my spotlight facing the woods, and my other hand that was free was on my belt, because right there on my belt I had my keys hooked there with the button to unlock for my blazer. So just in case I had to jump in that blazer, because at that time I did not have no firearms handy with me. So, but
since we're actually sharing some stories that we never really told anybody, I got one.
All right.
Actually happened after it was the hunting season of 2013. This was after the summer where I had the small juvenile encounter while I was metal detecting. So it was actually bow season, and I hunt on a game state land. I don't know, it's like 4,000 acres. So it was bow season. I ended up shooting this doe. So I shoot a doe, and it's in this pine thicket, and there's roads, but they're the dirt roads. It's not maintained or anything like that. And I think there was like 3 guys on the whole hill that I had seen that day, because I drove. I was trying to decide which stand to hunt, so I drove the whole hill, and I seen like 3 different vehicles. One happened to be parked near my stand, and usually when that guy goes in, it's the deer over to me. So I said, I'm going to hunt this stand because he's not there all the time. And or whatever he was doing, so I parked, went and got my doe. It was about a half an hour to shooting light. So, and the actual way I shot the deer is I was getting down to the stand. I said, well, I got about a 15-minute walk. Whatever, I'm going to just head out. I'm about 300 yards or so from the road, and there's 3 doe, and they're coming across, like right in front of me, through the pines had been cleared out in swaths years ago by the Boy Scouts, and they're coming across from that guy's section this way. So I actually drew back and whack, hit the one doe, and she actually took off running toward the road, but she died maybe, 100 yards later. So I'm still about 200 yards from the road. I seen her fall, seen her crash. I said, got it. I was happy, So I head over to the truck, get out to the truck, take all my gear off, everything, set it at the truck. Come back, grab the deer, and I start dragging the deer, get the deer. I said, well, I'm not going to gut it right here. So what I usually like to do is I like to hoist the deer up in a tree and gut it so everything's out and easy. so that was kind of my plan. Drug it there. I get to the truck, and that guy's coming out of the woods, and it's just about getting dark, and I'm like, hell. So I threw my headlamp on. He's like, you need some help? I said, yeah, real quick, if you don't mind. And I had my Ford SUV, the Explorer at the time. And so I backed the truck up to like a little embankment, and we used like a small, it was a smaller maple tree though, had a nice branch coming off of it. So we threw a rope up over that, tied it on the deer, hooked it up, hit it to my ball hitch, and I pulled down the road a little bit, hoisted the deer right up. Worked out great. We stood there, talked for like 5 minutes, and I started gutting the deer. He says, all right, I'm going to take off. So the guy leaves, and I'm gutting the deer, gut it. I get all done, all the guts are out, pull the heart out, pull everything, organs, get it all on the ground. I jump back around, wipe my hands off. I go to the truck, and I let the deer down. And I'm like, hell, it's going to be hard for me to, the doe was pretty big. She was a big doe, 150 pounds. That's decent. And I'm like, I don't know how the hell I'm going to lift it by myself up into the truck. So I started thinking, I said, well, if I back up slow, I'll get as close as I can and maybe like use the rope leverage to, I don't know how to explain it. It's like a T. And if I drop its legs onto the back of the truck and I roll the truck back, she'll lay in the back of the truck. So it took me an extra couple minutes to do that because I picking up 150-pound dead weight is not easy. I proceed to do that. As I'm doing that, I get her into the truck, and as I get her into the truck, I'm untying the rope off of her, and I get this uneasy feeling. I don't know how to explain it, but I know you guys have had it too, and maybe some of the viewers. All of a sudden, I hear this like noise. I don't know what it is. It sounds like a grunt. Like how a bear would make, like kind of like that.
Right.
But it wasn't a bear. I could hear the bipedal, like Steve was just saying. It was coming at me, but I couldn't see because it was dark out now. I couldn't see anything. All I could hear, I heard the grunt, but it sounded like a more of a human grunt. It didn't sound like a bear grunt. And when I heard that, I like froze for a second, and I turned and I looked to my left because that's the way the sound had come from. So I like looked, and first thing I was thinking is, oh, bear. But I like froze, and then I hear like the bipedal, the boom, 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 and it's getting closer, and I freaked out. Like about the fourth step, I heard boom, 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 and it was getting louder. And I ran for the truck. I didn't even shut the hatch door on the truck. I ran. I jumped in the truck. It was already started. I punched it, hit it in gear, and I left marks all the way down the dirt road. I left the hatch open and everything. The deer's neck was hanging out of the truck, and I took off the road. I don't know to this day. I didn't see anything. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't a bear. It wasn't all four. Usually a barrel. They'll growl, they're doing one of them numbers if they're coming after you. This was more like a huff, and it was like boom, 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 here, like I'm coming, like, and it freaked me. It scared the hell out of me. And especially after I had seen the little one, I knew they existed then, If I would have had a gun, it might have been different, but since it was bow season and the bow was already put away in the truck, I did not. I freaked out. I jumped in the truck, slammed it, punched it, went down the road, got all the way down to the end of the road. That's when I ended up jumping out, slamming the hatch gate, and I came home. Well, the very next day, I decided to go take a ride back there during the daylight. The whole gut pile and everything was gone. Everything was gone. I mean, yeah, I know there's coyotes and everything else, but to me, it seemed like it was a Sasquatch. Just by the bipedal walking, coming in, and then the very next day the whole gut pile was gone. The weird part was even the leaves that had like the blood on it, surrounding it, those leaves were even like tore up. They were like ripped out of the ground. It was awkward.
Wow.
It was really weird. I never told anybody that till just now.
Hmm. That's pretty interesting right there.
It's
It,
very
Layla,
interesting.
I don't get scared too often, but now I am to hunt. I will not. After I seen the huge male in 2014, I will not. I used to go in the woods. I'd be at my stand 5 a.m. I'd be ready. I'd be good. I won't do it anymore. No way. I wait till daybreak and then I get in the stand.
hmm. Hey, Shane.
Look at that fuzzy guy.
Hey, what's up?
Steve said, "Who's that fuzzy guy?"
Hey, that's my West Virginia neighbor.
Hey.
Well, a little south from you, so.
Yeah, it's all right. We still up in the hills.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Hey, Shane.
Well,
Hey, what's up?
well, you guys, we were really getting into some questions before our guest had to go, and I think it was getting very interesting. Oh, oh, Ryan's using the bathroom. Yeah.
It was a very interesting show, and I thought, considering the crew we have here, that we had some very good questions, and it was very interesting, and hope we can get him back on.
Now, Shane, the next 2 days you doing Ohio Bigfoot
Yeah, we just got
podcast,
done doing day one of the Ohio Bigfoot Conference with Henry.
right?
However, Henry got crappy Wi-Fi, so he kept on cutting in and out, and it was all shitty.
Oh
So,
man.
so tomorrow what we're going to do is we're going to do a test hangout and see if Henry can actually operate and work this whole thing. If not, we're going to do a real or not real tomorrow instead.
Okay. Maybe there's a certain area he could go into. Maybe just that one spot wherever he was at. Maybe you can try to move around and find a better signal or something somewhere.
So
Well,
we did get Bobcat Ghost with on there.
Yep.
Boom.
Okay, go wait.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
That's cool.
He didn't say anything, but we got his picture.
yeah.
That's how shitty the Wi-Fi was.
oh man.
Henry posted earlier in the day a picture of himself and Bobcat, and I commented and said, "Did he have a nickel stuck to his face?" And said he's a cool guy, and he said no, he didn't have a nickel stuck to his face, but he is cool. Do y'all remember the nickel on Bobcat's face?
Not sure.
I'm too young for that.
He was on
From
he was on Finding
yeah.
Bigfoot when he had it on there.
No, it was from the movie Burglar, where like Whoopi Goldberg was a nun or something,
Oh, you talking
and
about
there was
Sister Act?
and
He
might have
wasn't
been
Sister Act.
it was
Oh.
Sister Act or Burglar. I don't know, but anyway, it was like somebody was pounding on the door, and Bobcat Goldthwait slung the door open and said, "What do you want?" You know, and that voice he's got. And it was
Yeah.
like he had been sleeping on the floor and he had a nickel. And and it was just, that was like the part of the movie I always remembered was him opening the door with that scream and that nickel stuck on his face. But yes, I've seen him on some Bigfoot thing, you know, odd end things, and I've always thought he was cool. So,
Now,
but yeah, Henry said no, he didn't have a nickel, but he was. Go ahead.
Shane, are you familiar with Kenneth Jolowski?
No.
Jolowski. Okay.
No.
He's currently at the Bigfoot Ohio conference. The Ohio Bigfoot conference, and he's going to be one of our guests on Tuesday night, the 17th, because he'll be coming home from the Ohio conference. He's gonna, he plans on, he wants to talk and discuss, his time there, conference. I'm not sure if he's going to be one of the speakers there or not. I'm not aware if he was or not. He's an anthropologist who actually claims to have some Bigfoot experiences. So I'm anxious to hear what he has to say. So yeah, if you guys want to jump on Tuesday night, if you're able to, that's going to be at 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. Um, I'll show you his picture here in just a second. There we go. Let me do this. Yeah.
I saw a few pictures from the Ohio conference. Is everything going good? Is it a good time?
Well, we were supposed to do day one coverage today, but the crappy Wi-Fi just kind of wrenched in that system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now this is Sunday. What time is your show Sunday, Shane?
8.
At 8.
Yep.
Okay. Well, this one here starts at 7. And we had Bobby Rich on yesterday. That was pretty good. He shared 5 encounters with us, and the details he shared was awesome though. And then
Yeah,
Brien,
bless his heart. I sincerely
yeah,
hope he does better.
yeah, and Brien Foerster was our guest that was on tonight. And of course, like I said, Tuesday, May 17th, 7 p.m. Kenneth Jahel. Yeah, I get tongue-tied saying his name sometimes.
Jaholski.
Yeah. So, oh man. So, Shane, is there any rumors on finding Bigfoot? Any update on the finding Bigfoot episodes on when they're returning? Because I
I
know they're
have
not
no
done
idea when
yet.
they're going to return.
Okay. Last I heard, from my understanding, that they're combining what's left over, and they're going to start playing them with the new
Yeah.
ones. And they're going to go back to Sundays again, I heard.
Yeah, that's what I heard too, but I don't know when they're going to premiere.
Yeah, because I think I read that on Twitter. So, but, I guess we all have to be patient though, because I like watching Finding Bigfoot. I don't ever really. Well, I rarely get to watch it the day it airs. I usually end up having to watch it a day or two later, but because sometimes they're on too late. But I don't know. Tell you what, I'm gonna go ahead and take us off air. We can just chat openly about whatever. And, um, for viewers, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the discussion and the questions. And have any more questions for Brien Foerster? He's on Facebook. Feel free to message him directly. God bless.